Welcome to today's webinar session. We're absolutely excited to share a lot of valuable information with you. Right here speaking is Gideon Thomas, the CMO over at DealHub, and I want to introduce, and it's my privilege to introduce Eyal Orgil, the Chief Revenue Officer at DealHub and also part of the founding team. So today we're going to tackle the topic of unlocking revenue with DealHub CPQ and subscription management within the context of HubSpot CRM. And I'm going to hand over now to Eyal to walk us through some materials that he's prepared for you. And we have taken the liberty of collecting some of your best questions. Feel free to add more through the chat capabilities, and we will summarize at the end and come back to some of those Q and share some of the answers with you. So over to you, Eyal.
Great. Thank you, Gideon. Nice to meet everyone. Thank you for taking the time to be with us today. As Gideon said, I'm Eyal Orgil. I'm the CRO of DealHub. We're going to be looking at the capabilities of DealHub for both CPQ and subscription management. I will take you through some slides. Promise it's not going to be death through PowerPoint because you do want to see the solution in action. But I'm going to tell you what you're going to see, that we're going to see it, and I'll be telling you the value as we go through it. So first of all, a little bit about DealHub. We are a CPQ platform that's been in the industry for quite a long time now. According to G2, we've been in the top #1 position for probably about the last 4 or 5 years. So really well recognized in the industry. The one I like the most that G2 puts out is their top 50 products for sales, and those on the HubSpot side, I think you're also in there and well positioned as well. I think we're number 18 on this year's report. For the last 3 years, we've been in that top 50 products for sales. So all the different sales tools that organizations are adopting, we're on that list, and that's really a great place to be. DealHub works with a lot of great companies out there. We work with some of the top software companies, software SaaS companies out there, from the ChargeBees, the Gongs, and the Grammarlys. I'm sure you're familiar with them. The companies like Getty Images, or Taboola, or TechTarget in the more marketing type world and media world. We've got technology companies and hardware companies, the HPs of the world, their 3D printer division, Ricoh's, companies of that sort. So we've got some global organizations. We've got customers that are a few tens of salespeople all the way up to well into the thousands. Geo is one of the top mobile network operators in the world, utilizes DealHub. So really a great group of organizations that work with us, and they work with us because we have the ability to adapt to those different kinds of sales models and different processes that they have. So DealHub really is a solution that can adapt to a lot of different industries and can be used in a lot of different types of markets. For those that aren't as familiar with what CPQ does or gives you the value, I put together a quick little slide. What's in it for me, or what's in it for the company that takes CPQ? And really, CPQ can address organizations of all different sizes. But typically, you're going to be looking at a CPQ solution when you want to eliminate configuration complexity. Now, some solutions in the software SaaS world, 1 or 2 lines, not a big deal to quote it. Others have tens of lines. You start getting into ramps and all kinds of peak periods and things like that. And even what looks like the easiest SaaS company in the world may be the most difficult one to go and do quotes. So we can definitely do that for putting together any kind of hardware, equipment, software, of anything like that. Getting the right price every time, every situation, every model, whatever the business model you're in, whatever the price has to be, because you work through tier models, consumption models, whatever that happens to be, DealHub helps as a CPQ to put that together. Whatever your business is, you're dealing in new business, renewals, we talked about subscriptions in the title, so you're doing expansions and amendments as part of that process. So that's where DealHub's going to come into play as well. As a CPQ, you want to be able to handle the legal and commercial terms that go along with the quote. So you're selling into different countries, into different markets. You might have different legal terms that have to be part of that process. And DealHub, or as a CPQ, I'm saying DealHub, but CPQ, you're going to want to do that. DealHub obviously does that. When it comes to approvals, you want to be able to approve on any commercial, legal, or technical issue that comes up as you're building out that proposal. Generating the actual document that you need to send out to the customer. So, and depending on the industry, you're either going to call that a quote, a proposal, an insertion order, an order form. That might be an early on quote where it's a budgetary and just sending some information, and only later on you're adding in the terms and conditions, but you want that ability to go generate. And what's super, super important you have to have with any CPQ is you want that data to flow back into your system, into your CRM. In this case, we're talking HubSpot, because you've got a whole lot of back-end processes, from RevRec to revenue recognition to your invoicing processes, whatever you're using on that back end, that data's got to go back in a structured manner, and that's what you want your CPQ to do. So given that, let's talk a little bit about DealHub and what we're a little unique, why we're unique, and then we'll take a look at the solution as well. First of all, we talk about DealHub being a next generation CPQ. What's that philosophy behind that? Why do we think we're a next generation CPQ? Well, we took a look at all the different players that are involved in the CPQ process when we put the solution together. Typically, that's going to be your sales rep generating your proposal, or your customer success, if that happens to be who's doing a renewal quote. You've got your operations team, and you've got your end customer. From an operations point of view, DealHub is a configured solution, which is great. There's no coding done. We typically go up in a matter of weeks. We get solutions up and running. And when you go to make changes, you can make those changes typically in a matter of minutes, hours, or at most days. You're not talking huge projects anytime you want to change. And our customers typically will make changes. And we want them to make changes because your business processes are changing, your products, your pricing change, everything changes all the time. And you want the ability and the flexibility to do that. From a salesperson's point of view, what you want is a very intuitive flow. I like to call it a lot of times salespeople the complainers. I'm one of those. We like to complain about everything. Let's give them an easy time to go and do things. We're going to see some things in how DealHub works to make that process in CPQ really simple. From an end customer experience, what you want is the ability to get them the documents that they want, whether it's the old 1980s and 90s Word and PDF documents, or you want to get into the web world now and share content in a much more engaging web format, and DealHub can do it. Ultimately, out of this, what you're gaining is you've got collaboration between the different groups that have to collaborate, between sales and management and operations, between the sales and the end customer. We've got transparency of data syncing back into the system in between the sales and the customer, for example. And the key thing here is the agility. Like I said, things are always changing and you want a solution that's able to go and keep pace with your business changes. And that's exactly what DealHub can do. A couple more slides, I promise, and then we're going to jump in and see how this all works together. So how do we enhance the value for those that are working on HubSpot Sales Hub today? Well, first of all, as I said, that experience for the salesperson is something we call a playbook. You can think of it like a guided wizard. We're going to ask a series of questions. We're going to look at this in live in a few minutes. We'll see it running. Ask some questions. Questions will lead to additional questions. We're always going to walk the salesperson through a very intuitive process. In fact, we're going to take the same process, hopefully, that salesperson is already used to doing in some other method or maybe even in a manual process and simply map it into DealHub. In the background, after they answer questions, DealHub will go and generate all the right products, all the right pricing that needs to go into that configuration that we're expecting to get. When we need to manage subscriptions or any ongoing business that we have with a customer, you've got to manage things like renewals and amendments. We're going to take a look at this a little bit later. Upsells, credits, co-termed expansions, that's obviously key to keeping pace with whatever changes the customer is doing, and DealHub will allow you to do that. The CLM aspect of things, DealHub actually provides a unique capability to manage contract lifecycle management. So whether that's dynamically generating a contract based off of a template or even putting different terms and conditions into a proposal based on the fact that I'm selling into a different country or I'm selling into a different market, and we have to have certain maybe government regulations to inquire certain terms in there, and we're going to be able to do that. DealHub also gives you the ability to manage that redlining process, whether you want to use, we have an online redlining capability, or when the legal comes back and says, guys, I need a Word document, no problem. We'll give you a Word document. You can do that back and forth, and then we'll merge that all into one document at the end of the process. DealHub provides you parallel approval workflow. So those commercial, legal, technical reasons that I mentioned a moment ago, you can do all of that. Your DealHub will manage that whole process. We'll even give you a dashboard to look at all your different approval processes that are going on at the same time. And even if you dynamically go and reassign people because somebody went on holiday and just didn't let the rest of the team know, we're able to go and take care of that as well. When it comes to engaging with customers, what's really unique is our digital deal rooms. A deal room is basically almost like a mini website that we create for the opportunity or the deal that you're working on. And you can share all kinds of content in there, including your proposal, videos, presentations, whatever you want to share in there. Additional documents can be added in. That's what we call our deal box. We're sitting around a virtual table, all looking at the same content, and we can add additional content into that virtual room, and we can all share that content together. The deal rooms also provide online forms. They provide e-signature right within it. So when you're sending out content, the customer's ready to sign, they just go ahead and sign it. We have our own native e-signature. We also integrate today with DocuSign, and you can choose to use whichever one that you want to use, or you may have conditions where you want to use one or the other in the same environment. We also have the ability to go track the engagement of our customers. This is really key. We want to understand, are people interested in it? What's that intent that they have to continue working through? Obviously, in HubSpot, we know all the kinds of tools that are there for the website. That's taking that and now putting it into your proposal then. The ability to really understand what people are doing. Are they looking at your content, sharing it with others, filling in a form, downloading it because they want to see it in a PDF format, not in a web format? All that kind of engagement information is provided to the salesperson. You can really understand what's happening with the content you're sharing with your customers. We've got the ability to do real-time messaging and collaboration. So whether that's a salesperson building out a proposal, working with other team members to build out the right proposal so we can actually have multiple people working on the same proposal or simply communicate with them, And then once we get it out to a customer in the deal room, we can actually communicate with that customer as well. We can talk to them, or they can talk back to us in the sense, engage with us, chat with us, tell us, hey, can you change the pricing a little bit, give me a bit more information, and we can have that all within that digital deal room. We also have the ability to send out notifications, so whether it's the approval process notifications or the engagement of the customer, that can be sent out through Slack or through email notifications. So it makes it really simple. Whatever kind of notification process you're using today, you're able to go engage that. And then finally, what's super key is that bidirectional sync with Sales Hub. So we have the ability to send that information, bring information in from Sales Hub, and we can sync all the information back at the end of the day. So you can do all of your reporting, all of your tracking, all of your analytics, and of course, push all that information into your back-end processes. So with that, let's go take a look now at the demo and see some of these things in action. So I'm going to jump over to a Sales Hub screen. Obviously, everybody's going to configure it a little bit different. So just quite a bare bones version of the screen. Basically, I've got a deal that I'm working on. All that DealHub's going to do is add a couple buttons here, create quote and view quote. Create quote is going to take me into the DealHub environment. It's going to allow me to build out a proposal. View quotes lets me take a look at any versions of that quote that I've already done. So whether I've sent it off to the customer and now I'd like to make a modification to it, or I haven't even sent it, I've just saved some drafts, and then I want to go and work on them again later on. So I can go into view quotes and take a look at that. But once I click on create quote, we'll go into the DealHub environment that we see here. Up at the top, we get some general information that we're going to read in, things like the name of the opportunity. In this case, we decided not to fill in the geography for some reason, but that's okay. We've got the currency. We've automatically set up a unique ID for this. This is things that are all configurable within the system. And then basically, that's all I need to do for the start. I really want to focus in on the playbook down at the bottom over here. This is my playbook. Now, every playbook is going to look different, and we'll see another playbook shortly when we go to do some amendments. But a playbook is simply going to walk a salesperson intuitively through the process of building out their proposal or maybe adding in content. And it can be broken up into a structured process. So if I were to sell a software SaaS solution, I'd want to sell some products, maybe a project that goes with that, some service and support, maybe make some changes to my contract. I talked about that CLM capability, and maybe even add some additional materials into that document that I'm generating. So all I have to do as a salesperson is start interacting with the questions that are presented. And this is the intuitive nature of it. I would have taken the process that this salesperson is used to working and simply map it in here. So maybe the first thing I ask a customer is, I'm asking a salesperson to do is enter your solution, and I might provide some additional assistance as well. So we can have some graphical or textual support here, images and so forth, and then have a list of selections that I might want to do. In this case, maybe I want to pick an enterprise solution, which is going to give me a number of additional selections to do. How many licenses do I need? What duration and so forth. But let's say it wasn't really enterprise that I needed. What I was looking to do is quote a standard solution. So a different set of questions dynamically changes on the screen. So I'm always presented the relevant questions. And as we'll see in a moment, even the only relevant responses that I can provide. Now, once I've done that, what DealHub's gone and done as well is it's already generated the products that I need to go along with this solution. So again, I didn't have to do anything picking products. I simply go through an intuitive process of answering what I typically would do. And you can think of this as almost that customer discovery that I run. I'm talking to my customer, tell me what you need, what solution, how long do you want it for, and so forth. And then based off of that, I'm going to get my product selected for me. Now, DealHub can go obviously much further. As I said earlier, we want to get the right price for the right situation. Well, at the moment, I've got, for example, a duration of 3 months for my standard license, a quantity of 20. What would happen if I added more licenses? What I would want is to have a better price because I'm buying more. So let's just randomly click here at 414 users, and the price just dropped to $39 per user. Now, let's say that I want more than 3 months. So let's go pick, for example, a 24-month agreement, and the price just dropped to $24.16. So as you can see, this is all dynamic, and if I change it, the pricing will automatically adjust. So we've set in our pricing in the background to dynamically change. Multi-dimensional pricing is referred to it, and it's automatically going to change the pricing. And again, all configured by the customer to exactly whatever model that they have. And of course, we can have a lot of different options. We'll look at some discounting in a moment, because as a salesperson, that's probably something I'm going to want to do as well. Moving along, I can ask additional questions, in this case, part of the project. And if I pick a certain kind of project, the relevant question comes up. So it says, what is the duration of the project? And it's measured in years, the state current project. But if I were to pick a new development project, that's actually measured in months. and you can see a completely different set of values. Let me go back there. If it's a stay current, values in years 1 to 3, but if I go to new development, the question is in months, and it goes anywhere from 1 to 12 months. So it automatically puts in the right information. So that means I can actually have a situation where the salesperson can't make a mistake. I've got a valid configuration if I've decided to put those guardrails in place to do that. I don't have to do that. I could leave it open to the salesperson. We'll talk in a minute about approvals because maybe I want to let them quote things that are not something they would normally quote, and then we can put an approval process around that. What we can also do is we also have the ability to give different players in the process. I might want to bring in different stakeholders in the process. They may have different access rights of what they're allowed to select as well. So there's a lot of room here that we can go and adjust how we want the users to be able to basically interact with the playbook that we see here. If we move on to services support, really bold there, it says, hey, there's a mandatory question that's got to be selected, and that's support. That's the support level, which makes a lot of sense. So let's go put in premium support. Maybe we'll add in a workshop and professional services. Here we've actually given the ability where the salesperson can go and customize the description of that service. So let me go and say special service for HubSpot. And today is June, I think it's the 13th, right? And the 2023. And that's the actual description that we'll see in the proposal that we generate. We might even want to put together a project team. Now, this isn't a playbook for putting together services, but just as a short little way to do it, here it's already gone and figured out what are the right team members that I need, in this case, a project manager, implementation manager, a system architect, and the number of hours that are required based off the solution that I selected up above. I, as a salesperson, might want to go and change that, but I could have also had some thresholds set up. I'm trying to click less than 10 hours and it simply won't let me. Why is that? Because we put some guardrails in place to make sure that that threshold doesn't let me go below a certain amount. So I have a valid configuration. Again, these are optional ways to go and configure the system to make sure that we get the right proposal out to the customer. So that's the capabilities we can do in quoting. You can imagine different kind of industries. If I was selling in the construction industry, I'd be selling so many feet or meters of wood or metal or whatever it may be, or kilos or pounds of something in the chemical industries, or whatever I happen to be doing. It's just a matter of configuring the right playbook. Now we're going to take a little bit of a switch and look at some of the contract management side of things. And again, just some examples of what we could do. Every customer is going to do the things that they want to do. Nothing of what I'm showing today is actually hard-coded. It was all configured as a kind of a use case of what could be done over here. So for example, payment terms. I might allow the salesperson to change it. I'm going to change it to 60 days, but if I take a look at this tooltip here, it says anything beyond 30 days is going to need the require the approval of finance. And if I jump down to the bottom, an approval process opened up, it says they're non-standard payment terms. And I've actually got a couple steps here. I've got Dave and Ellen. It could be both of them or one of them. That's a configurable option. And then it will go off to Mark. And when you configure this, it might also be based off the total net price. So if I've gone over, say, $600,000, I would be able to go to 60-day payment terms without an approval. And again, just another way to configure it. So there's a lot of flexibility here. And I'm going to come back and talk about the approvals in a minute as well, because a lot of great features around the approval process. Payment schedules I might want to set up. DealHub can actually work out, I don't have our example today, but I could actually set up quarterly and actually output that in my document, say, here's what you're going to be paying each quarter. So we can do payment schedules and other things like that, if that's what you would want the system to do. Obviously, things like payment methods, whatever is relevant, you would go and enter into the process here. Maybe I'd want to go and modify my MSA. I'm going to skip on that today, but I have the ability even to go and do some editing right within the MSA. Actually, I do want to edit the terms and conditions. And there's a couple ways to do it. One, if anybody here is in operations here, you're going to get scared of this, is we're going to give the salesperson some flexibility to do it on their own. Typically, we're not going to let the salesperson do it on their own, but this might be a place where I'd want to go in and bring another team member into the process. And here's where I can go and bring in that, what we call deal talk or that chat capability. And I might want to go and reach out to Adam over here and say, can you please change the terms for me? And yada, yada, yada. I'll explain what it is that I want them to go and change. And he's going to get a message. He'll be able to come in. He can actually come into my playbook as soon as I've finished off the page here. If he tries to come in while I'm working on, obviously going to be told that it's being worked on right now. He'll be able to come in. He'll be able to make some changes because he'll have access rights to do this. I wouldn't give the salesperson the ability to do it. Once he's done with those changes, he'll let me know back in that deal talk chat, and then I can go back and continue with the process. But what we can also do is provide, in this case, we call it pre-approved clauses, things that I'm going to allow the salesperson to go and change. So for example, the term renewal, I'm going to let the salesperson remove the automatic renewal. Now, again, I could put an approval process around that. That's a decision we can make. I'm just going to leave it that he can do it. and maybe even a yearly increase. And I'm going to give the salesperson some flexibility over here. So the idea is that we can put in some really tight guardrails of what you're allowed to do, but also provide a lot of flexibility. At the end of the day, the acceptance and the adoption of a CPQ is a solution that salespeople like to use. It's intuitive, and they're given the freedom and flexibility to do what operations or management are going to allow them to do. And that's what we want to do with DealHub as well. We want to give that ability to go and configure it. And like I said earlier, these changes can be done oftentimes in minutes or days, depending on what you're doing. Literally, some of these can in minutes, things that I'm showing you if we wanted to remove or add some of these options. The last thing I want to do is I want to make my proposal a little more relevant to my customer. I want to add some additional maybe content into that. So do I want a case study? Let's go and add in a case study. And DealHub can actually be a recommendation engine here. Why is that? Well, it can look back at what territory I'm selling into, or what product I'm selling, or what market I'm selling into, and it can give me the right relevant content. So again, we want to make sure we're getting the right content out to the customer, and I can select the relevant content that I want to go along with that. I might even want to do something like put together an SOW. And what this has done is gone and opened up a whole new section for me down below. And I can decide, for example, how many stages do I want of that SOW? Maybe I want to modify the dates. And again, this might be a different team member I'm going to bring in to do that. And I might want to also go and make some changes. I'm just going to put some gibberish over here, but we'll see that in the document in a minute. I can make some changes to that. So as you can see, that playbook can do a lot of things. Now, one thing that's really key is some of our customers only answer 1 or 2 questions, and they get a whole list of products done for them because we can preset it so that's going to do all that work for them. And some want to get into the details over here. So it's really, again, a matter of setting it up what's right under the specific use case and for the specific maybe sales team or customer success team or wherever group is doing the proposal in. Now that I've got my quote here, this area we're looking at here, the product summary is my worksheet area. I'm a salesperson. Now I want to get creative. This is the time to do it. So what can I do? Well, if I want, I can go discount on a line level, or maybe I've already negotiated with the customer that this line, we talked about $150,000, and I'll plug that in. And DealHub will automatically lock off that price for me, that discount. I can also have products where I allow, again, if I've allowed them to do it, or we can change maybe the product. Sometimes we want to raise the price a little bit and then discount maybe a little heavier on that, if that's what the business allows. I can also provide an overall discount, or if I know the customer's budget, $400,000, let's plug that in and let DealHub work out the discounts for me. Now, one thing that if you look at the discounts up above, they didn't spread evenly. The first line is locked off because that I said is going to be $150,000. And 3 lines down, we can see 15%. I've actually set a maximum discount on this line. Now, this could be because maybe it's a hardware item that has costs associated with it, or for whatever business reason, I've said that's got a maximum discount. So we can put some logic behind things as well and have maximum discounts, even to the extent where I may want a different maximum discount based off of the region that I'm selling into. So I'm selling into an emerging market, maybe I'm going to allow a higher discount rate. Now, what's also happened down below is I've got another approval process. Now we can see very clearly that parallel approval process. We've got Steve, who didn't want to show his image here. We've got Tim and Teresa, and they're all in the approval process, along with the approval process that we saw below that. Now, what's very unique as well is we have the ability to go and customize the message that will go out to each approver. Why is that important? Because in any approval process, what tends to slow things down is one, they didn't get the message, and we'll talk about that in a second, but the other is they didn't get the right information that they need to make the decision should they approve it or not. So DealHub actually has the means to customize the message that will go out to each of the different approvers. And that message can go out as an email or as a Slack message. We'll customize it to them. And then to approve it right from that message or email, they can approve or reject it. They can also log into a dashboard and approve or reject it. They can also do that through a mobile web application. So several different methods. We'll even send them out an email reminder every 24 hours so that they can go in and get a result. Basically, they'll get an email message or a Slack message summarizing all the proposals that are waiting for them to approve, and they can quickly do that. So we really want to reduce the friction in that process. Let's quickly take a look at the documents. We're going to see what's synced back in the CRM, and then we'll quickly take a look at the subscription side of things as well. So one thing I want to do as a salesperson is I might want to go and do a preview of that document that I've just generated. So what DealHub is doing right now is dynamically generating that document. And I could have given other options as well if I wanted a cover page or a cover letter. Maybe I want to show discounts on the line level or the quote level or other options on how to show discounts. And that could have been things that I asked the sales rep to enter details as well. So here I've got my proposal. In this case, a very detailed proposal. with a nice cover page and an image. We don't want to do that right now. Let's do that later. And here I've got a cover page. First of all, that draft watermark is just there because I don't want salespeople sending that off. It isn't approved yet. There is an approval process. But if we do look closely, these are the selections that I made in the playbook. So a new development project for 11 months. There's the net price, the discount. So we can really, obviously it wouldn't come out in red in a real environment as well, but just to highlight it here, we can have the document generate a solution overview dynamically based off of what products and services I selected. There's the case study for Forrest Associates that I want to include. There's my pricing summary broken out into software and services. That's how I want to present to my customer. That could have been an option that I selected to choose. And if you notice, the columns are not the same because I don't have to present content the same way in services. I don't want to get into a discount discussion, whereas I did want to do that in the software side of things. And if we look down here, special service for HubSpot, June 13th, 2023, that's what I typed in for the professional services. So that's been integrated into here. I did some pricing breakdowns, even did some modeling for the customer if we were to ramp up over the next couple of years. Here's some uplifts that we've taken into account. We've calculated that all. There's my terms and conditions, included in bold what I selected: no automatic renewal, 60-day payment terms. One thing to note, the document can also come out in different languages, and for that matter, the playbook could have been in different languages as well if we want. But we can generate the document based off of where I'm selling into or where my salespeople are located. We can have that content generate in a different language as well. There's my signature block ready to get a signature dropped in there. And there's my SOW that I created with a couple of bullets that I went and highlighted or put some gibberish in there just to show that I can do that. So we can see the ability to really generate any kind of content that we want to include over here. Do I want to put in a deal room? I definitely want to show a customer a deal room. Let me just show a deal room that we actually created earlier. If I was a HubSpot salesperson, maybe I'd want to send out something like this. So this is a link that the customers received. They've opened it up. We've got an introduction here, maybe some customers we're talking about. In this case, we've got a fictitious salesperson called Ben, and he's sending out the proposal, and he's decided to include certain content, or his operations team has decided this is the content that we want to include. Here's a video, in this case, hosted on YouTube, could be Vimeo, could be other places, and that could have been selectable by the salesperson as well. So we can put different content into the process here. All kinds of information explaining more about my proposal, what it is that I'm proposing to the customer, whatever is relevant. We have the deal box that I talked about earlier. That's the ability to go add, drop in other content right in here so we can all share that content. You can decide how you want to visualize that. Some more information. Here's our pricing. We broke out the pricing into 3 options. One of the things I didn't mention earlier, we have the ability to actually present customers multiple options of the proposal that they're working on. So they can actually go and see different options, and very shortly they'll have the ability to actually select it right on the row that something's going to come out very soon. We can put in our terms and conditions. We've got our billing information. There's our form. This is online forms. They can have either pick lists to choose from, or they can enter the free text. That information can sync back into Sales Hub, and we'll have that captured. And we can also have that brought right onto the document. And then the signature process below. I'll have to go through a process to identify myself, so I won't do that right now. We have an e-signature built in. Like I said, that could be our own e-signature, or that could be DocuSign, and we can incorporate it. And while I'm doing this, I would have the ability, whilst the customer is going through this, I'd have the ability to actually go through and take a look at my activity stream, my deal stream, and be able to take a look at all the different opportunities that I'm working on. And I'd be able to go take a look at all the different activities that have happened. So if I wanted to look at a specific customer, I can go see when things were viewed, when they were downloaded, when it was signed off, all these different steps that I can see are taken. This is in real time provided. The salesperson also notified as a Slack message, so I can see the level of engagement of my customers, how they're doing, looking at my content, and really understand when people are moving forward with it, or maybe I need to jump in and get back together with them. So that would be the process. And obviously at the end of the day, we're going to sync all that back into Sales Hub. We're going to sync back our line items that we do and other data that we want to sync back over here. We can go decide what it is that we want to sync back. Sales Hub is the source of truth. That's where we want to sync all the information back. So once I submit that proposal, all that content is going to go back into there. So that would be like a new business type process. And what we're going to do about the next 5 minutes, so I want to walk you through, and we'll get to have some time for Q&A. I want to walk you through managing subscriptions. Again, just examples of the kinds of things that we can do. It can be set up in all kinds of different ways. Now, when I clicked on Create Quote and I was in a subscription environment, I could have gone into DealHub and I could have gotten a different, should have set that up here earlier. I could have gotten a different playbook to work through. Just before I do that though, I'm working on a subscription. So let me take a step back. Within HubSpot, we can keep track of all the subscriptions that a customer has over here. So this is actually an object that DealHub provides within HubSpot. And basically I can go and keep track of all the different things that a customer has purchased. So if I'm looking at my customer here, Burlington, oops, I don't want to do that. Or it is, there it is, Burlington Textiles, or I might want to look at it just at that company view. I can go see what they have over here. Actually, I do want to come back to that main view for a second. I want to talk about the information we capture. So I can see with Burlington Textiles, what licenses or platform they have, what quantities, start dates and end dates, what they paid for it, maybe the discount they got, the net price. Did it come in as a new business, as an upsell, as a renewal, an upgrade? All that information can be captured. This can be completely customized. I've even got the ability I've captured here, the yearly increase. Why do I want that? Because in a moment, I'm going to generate a new proposal for the customer, and I'm going to give some different options like renewals or expansions, and I might want to need to take that into account. So if I jump back over to the DealHub environment, and like I said, this is a different playbook over here. I'm just going to go manually get that subscription. This can all be automated, but just to show you what's happening in the background, there's those 3 lines that we just saw a moment ago from Burlington: an admin, a platform, and a standard. I'm going to go grab those and bring them into DealHub. And then I've configured my playbook a little bit different, as you can see over here. And I've given the salesperson or the operations person or CS person the ability to go take some actions on that. So for example, I might want to do a renewal or an upsell, or maybe do an upsell and a renewal at the same time. Let's say I want to go and upsell. So I'm going to upsell. I've got a new column here. Let's go add in a few licenses. And down below, I've got a line. There's a standard license. I'm going to add in a few more things that I'd like to see on the screen. And these are all things that can be customized, either preset or the salesperson can adjust on their own. And maybe we want to take a look at the ARR and the incremental ARR if it's relevant. So there's the line that I've just added, a standard license from June 23rd up until October 23rd. We're going to do, and because that's the date that I selected that I wanted. Of course, if I change that to a different date, that will change the start date. It's going to be an expansion until October 23rd, which is 4.06 months, the quantity of 3 at $75. The discount is the previous discount. Again, this is just the way I decided that I want to sell in my business. I'm going to use the previously agreed to discount, and then I'm going to give it a net price. And I've also calculated the incremental ARR that's going to be on this opportunity. Now, what were to happen if I were to go do an upsell and a renewal? So let's go and do that. Now, a couple things to explain on the screen. First of all, we can see there's an expansion line, there's a renewal line. So the expansion was for the 4.06 month. The expansion was for the renewal for 12 months. Total here is 37 because I had 34 and I added in those 3 licenses. What's also unique is the unit price just jumped to $76.88. Why is that? Because I had a 2.5% increase that needed to be taken into account. So if I expanded, DealHub is able to go and know, hey, we're just going to go and use the same pricing for this year. But if I go do a renewal, I'm going to have to up that to the next year's price that we've already negotiated. And I've gone and calculated that ARR. And of course, I can sync that information back into the CRM if we want. We have a lot of granular data that we can provide, just like all these columns that I have here. We can add any number of items, and all that information can be synced back to Sales Hub at that granular level on the line. Now, what I can also do, another option I provided over here for the admin, is to maybe do a license conversion. Give you another example over here. Let's go take 5 licenses. And for the admin license, we're going to go give a credit for 4.32 months. And we can see a negative prices come up. And then we have the license conversion. Now, why didn't I just call it a new? Because maybe for my revenue recognition processes, I want to keep track that this was a license conversion. Again, this can be out of the box. We can set it up this way, or you can go and configure it any way that you want. And basically, we have a proposal that's ready to go back out if we need that just for an internal proposal. Or again, we could have generated a document and sent it out to the customer. So I've run through things really quickly because we did want to cover a lot of different things that are possible with the solution. So I've covered the ability to go do some new business. I've covered some abilities, how we can basically have those subscriptions available right within Sales Hub. We can go and keep track of that. All this information can be read. All this information can be reported off of. And of course, like as I said, I can keep track of all the different steps that I've had. What's also very unique with this subscription object over here is, as I mentioned, we can keep track of when we bought something originally, when we upsold, when we did some amendments, and you have an entire history log of what the customer has purchased. Gives you a really good roadmap of how that customer has worked with you. And of course, if you go just into their individual view, or if I want to bring it into my deal or my account level, I should say, I can actually take a look at what the customer has. All that data is available within Sales Hub. So new business coming into keeping track of the subscriptions and the ability to go and make any kind of amendments or any changes that I want. And DealHub can handle all that. And all the logic is just a matter of you configuring. Again, everything that was done here is all configured, nothing's coded. And typically we can do projects just in a matter of weeks. So with that, we're going to pause this part of it. And we're going to go into some Q&A. I think we have some questions that were already sent out. I think some questions have come in. So we'll take a look at those. Just for those on the HubSpot side, there are some additional resources that you may want to go and look at. And I think I'm not sure if we're going to put this in the chat. Maybe we can. There's the ability through Slack with DealHub. If you have any questions, reach out to us. There's also a wiki that I understand you have that you can go take a look at. And of course, please look me up if you want. Direct message me on LinkedIn, and we'll be happy to give you any support that you need and any of the opportunities you're working on. Obviously, we've done a lot of great deals with a lot of partners in HubSpot and a lot of the HubSpot team itself on some really great wins together. Dozens of customers, new customers every month, which is great. And just looking forward to continuing this and helping you out any way that we can. So with that, Gideon, why don't we jump over any questions? Make them easy, hopefully.
Okay, yeah, thank you for that. And just to make it easier for you guys at home, we'll make sure to send these links with the on-demand recording after the event, so they can have both a copy of this webinar as well as access to those resources. So I have at least 10 to 15 questions here that you guys have shared with us, and I'll try to pick on a few, including the ones that came in during this show. So just starting kind of from the top, Eyal, can you just share with us how easy or difficult it is to integrate DealHub CPQ with HubSpot CRM, and kind of give a sense of the effort that's involved with that? Well,
the actual integration is just a small application that gets loaded onto the Sales Hub environment, and that's pretty much it. Once we've connected, obviously we're not going to have a chance to go into the back end, but if anybody on the technical side does want to work with us and see the back end of how we configure things, once the two systems are configured together or integrated together, as I said, it's a simple process, takes just a matter of minutes. Within DealHub, we're able to map and see all the fields back in Sales Hub that we want to connect with. So it's a one-time integration. Majority of the work is then going to happen on the DealHub side. Obviously, if you want to map to some sort of fields, just to make sure those fields are available. But all that work can be done on the DealHub side on the admin screens.
Fantastic. And then the next question for you is, what would you say the main differentiators are for DealHub CPQ versus the local competition within the context of HubSpot CRM?
Well, basically, there's a number of different things that you're going to get with DealHub. One, as I said, it's a completely configured environment, and you saw today some of the complexities that we can do, whether it was new business renewals, the ability to have all the different kinds of content that was dynamically generated. So it's all configured. It's really easy to set up in a matter of weeks. It's also able to be managed completely by the customer once they're up and running, unless they have an agreement maybe with a partner that continues to support that, but they do have the ability to go and maintain it on their own, which is what customers want to do. They don't want to be always reliant necessarily, depending on the business they're in. They may not want to be reliant on somebody externally. They can make all those changes themselves. I think the breadth of what we offer over here, we talked about, it's the CPQ, it's the built-in document generation, it's the CLM, it's the subscription management, it's the deal room that we saw the ability to do that, the e-signature that's built in with all the capabilities on the deal room as well, the forms and the deal box and all that. Completely different methodology in a lot of CPQs. We really took I talked about it earlier, where like a next generation CPQ, you've got a solution here that's going to take a salesperson from early in the process, just even maybe initial contact with the customer. That deal room does not even have to include a proposal. It might just be some content that you want to share out, and we can bring in some content maybe from the CMS system that they have. And then we're going to get into setting out that proposal. It might be an initial budgetary proposal, then a final proposal, have that negotiated. And we didn't get into that today as well, but we can definitely, work with anybody who wants to see that redlining capability. We can do that redlining negotiation, have that document signed off, and of course, everything's synced back into Sales Hub. So we're not just there to pick products. The guided process as well, we talked about the playbook, whether it's to build out products, whether it's to build out content, that's also very unique. A lot of CPQs will simply give you a filter or just go take a look at all the products and pick the products that you want. If you've got a dozen products, sometimes that might be all that you need. But as soon as you have more than that, as soon as you have product dependencies or prerequisites or other logic that has to be taken into account of how to put those products together, and that can even be sometimes in the software SaaS industry where people have only 5 or 10 products, but the way those products come together, that can add a lot of complexity. Then you're going to need the ability of something like DealHub to take you through that process. So those are probably some of the key differentiators, I would say, that why you'd want to go with DealHub maybe than another solution.
Fantastic. Thank you. Moving on to the next question and moving into some of the mechanics of DealHub. Is DealHub able to, is it available with other languages? For example, here, Spanish, French, languages beyond English.
So basically what we walked through earlier, the playbook, everything you saw in the playbook was configured. If I was the customer that implemented that, which we were for obviously for our demo environment, I could have set that up in any language. Now I can have multiple playbooks in an environment, or I could read in from Sales Hub saying, hey, we are in South America somewhere. So automatically the salesperson will be presented with the Spanish, or in Brazil, maybe the Portuguese version of the playbook. If they're in Germany, they'll get the German one. So definitely the playbook can be any language that you want it to be in, or multiple languages. The documents that we generated as well. And those could be from a pick list that we ask a question, which language do you want the document in, or even just automatically based off of the region. Really like to talk about DealHub being a big Lego building block set. It's just a matter of putting the blocks together the way that you want for different content, different languages, different pricing, whatever process that you need. And I'm obviously simplifying it, but anybody that wants will be happy to take you through the back end, because sometimes it really is that simple to go and configure the solution.
Great, thank you. Next question. Would you recommend DealHub also for complex quotes that involve ERP integrations and a lot of different kind of product lines?
Well, first of all, I'm always going to recommend DealHub. I guess that's my job. We can work with ERPs in a number of ways. Sometimes you've got customers, especially if you look at some of those manufacturing environments, where the ERP is the master of record for products, and DealHub can bring in the products directly from the ERP in a number of different methods. We can bring in those products. We have other methods where the maybe the product catalog is also the master, maybe also the pricing is the master. Then you don't want the CPQ, as we walk through today. Obviously, the pricing was set up in the CPQ. DealHub also has the ability to go in real time to read in the pricing from, so do a query out to the ERP, give it some information. I need this product with this quantity, with this color, whatever the attributes need to be. And then the ERP will provide us in real time. So as we built out that quote before, in real time, we'll be able to go and get that pricing. So it's another methodology. We have other customers that work together with ERPs. DealHub has a full set of open APIs where the ERP can come in and read whatever information that it wants as well, through DealHub's ability to go and do all the way through a revenue process through billing and billing schedule. We can also connect to an ERP that way. We didn't talk about that today. Another method that we can also operate the platform.
Perfect, fantastic. Next question for you. If there is a renewal, do you create an additional subscription record within HubSpot or update the existing?
So typically we're going to go and put in another record, as I showed earlier. Maybe I'll just jump back over. We might want, well, again, you can set it up the way that you want. Typically, what I like to do is have another record in here, if this is what you're referring to, because then you have that history of how the customer went through their journey that they went through with you. So they originally bought a system, then they upsold, you upsold them, they renewed, some more expansions, then you renewed again. And you can keep this entire history as a full log, or as I said, you can just go and summarize it down to what the customer actually has at this very moment. So I like it when we go, but again, it's up to how the customer wants it. I like to have it that it's all that history is available there, so you can really keep track of that journey the customer went through. A lot of times that's also used in a lot of BI analytics. You want to understand how a customer evolved with you, with your solution, and then by having all that track record, you're able to keep track of that data.
Great, thank you, thank you. Next question for you. Let's take the example of somebody who wants to send quotes to a chain of stores, i.e. they have separate billing addresses, maybe one in Dublin, one in London, Boston, etc. Within your quote solution, how would you handle that? How would you handle the different addresses?
So we didn't go into all the capabilities. Definitely within the playbook, we could go and be setting up, as we build out the quotes, we could identify for which stores they need to be. We could put in the addresses, or maybe the addresses are read in, depending on where it's located in the CRM, we'll bring in that data. So we can definitely go and handle quotes that need to be sent out. If it's in one quote to different places, or from the deal, you might want to be breaking that out into different. Some of it's going to depend on what needs to be done. Like the devil's really in the details here, because I've really seen it done in multiple different ways, where somebody will sell to multiple stores in one quote. Sometimes they want separate quotes, but definitely we've handled those kinds of things before, and that's probably something we want to get into more with the technical people. You don't want the sales guy promising you everything how it's done so easily. You might have to do a bit of configuration, but that can definitely be done.
Great, great, perfect. Next question, and I hope I've understood the context correctly here. Can you customize the design on a quote template in the context of PDF that is downloaded, for example, if there is spacing logic?
I'm not sure what the reference is to spacing logic. I'll try to answer that, but definitely the documents are fully customizable. We can have any number of templates supported. We don't put a limit on that. Obviously, you're going to have to maintain if you have a lot, but we do have customers that will have several different templates. Sometimes it's because it's different languages, sometimes because they want different formats of the document. You can definitely go and format them in different ways. As I said, they're dynamic documents. You can actually set up logic around different words, sentences, paragraphs, or complete pages. We can also merge in. We work with an HTML environment. We can also work with a Word document as well and merge parts of a Word document into another document as well. So we have a number of different ways to go and make sure you can generate exactly the document that you need to generate. And then the output of that can be a Word, PDF. DealHub, just so you know, also has the ability to export as an Excel format as well.
Fantastic, Yael. Next question for you. We're making good progress here. What kind of customer is a good fit for the DealHub solution, and how could perhaps somebody working at HubSpot or potentially a partner position DealHub?
Well, to go back to what I said earlier in the presentation, it's the kind of pains that the customer is going to have. Usually it's going to be around pricing, around configurations, around approval processes, making sure everything is synced back into the CRM. Customers often starting at 10 or 15 salespeople. That's when you start getting to a point where people are doing their own rogue discounting and you want to put approvals. Not everything is being, that's, the old napkin of intent where the salesperson just puts a quote or you're writing down a napkin over lunch and you want to make sure it's all logged back into the CRM. So that's when you want to start putting in those processes. So really any size of organization, DealHub has customers anywhere from 10 or 15 salespeople up to into the thousands of salespeople. So those pain points that I talked about earlier, and there's others that could be as well. Sometimes it just is even as simple as having a standardized look and feel. The number of customers that I've talked to that have spent thousands and thousands of dollars building out a brand, and then salespeople decide that they don't like the way the logo is shaped and they want to change it and modify it a little bit. You don't want those things. You've got a brand and all that. Sometimes it's even that. So there's a lot of different reasons when a CPQ will come in, and really from small size all the way up through large in multiple different industries.
Great. I was just about to ask, what kind of industries would be a good fit for DealHub as well? So you've kind of implied software. I'm guessing there's more.
So software, services, manufacturing. We got companies like I said, printing companies and all that manufacturing area, and a lot of different types of industries. That really the solution can address a lot of different use cases. As you saw, that playbook is the way we walk them through. There's also a way we didn't even talk about. If you just want to pick products manually and search for them and filter through that, that's also something. Sometimes you've got tens of thousands of products, and it's not something you're going to guide somebody through. They know what product they're looking for. They want to just filter through and get to that, and we can do that as well. So we can really address the needs of different industries.
Fantastic. I think a couple of these questions might overlap with what they were asked before the events. They might overlap a little bit, but it will be positive reinforcement. So I'll ask it anyway. Can the DealHub software do the calculation on line items? For example, the cost to create the PowerPoint was X amount, and the cost to do the second review was 30% less of the total cost.
Absolutely. We've got a host of built-in capabilities to do pricing, even to the extent where you could build out your own equations. You could build out your own calculations, even with mathematical formulas. We got customers in different industries that actually have to calculate a price. There is no one individual price that's associated with something. I showed you examples earlier of tier-based pricing, volume and duration. Those are all functionality that's built into the platform, but you can also build in things like percentages of other products or other calculations that you want to do. So definitely, that's all out of the box. It's just a matter of seconds. There's no coding that needs to be done. It's just a matter of going in and configuring it. And you may even want to price differently under different conditions. The same product could be priced differently based off where it's sold or how it's sold or under what conditions or bundle it's in or things of that sort. All that functionality is available for pricing.
Fantastic. Next question for you, and it's a two-part question here. Just to confirm, is DealHub working with organizations beyond kind of SMB and the small businesses? Is it going right the way up into the larger orgs?
Well, absolutely. I showed earlier on our slides, we've got HP, the 3D printer division. Reliance Jio is the #3 mobile network operator in the world, #1 in India, #3 in the world. We've got companies like Ricoh that are global companies in the printing industry, happen to be in the printing industry as well. And we've got all kinds of organizations that are across the globe and different sizes of all types. So really, like I said, the solution can adapt anywhere from a few tens of salespeople all the way up into those thousands.
So the second part of that question for you is, therefore, how is DealHub handling GDPR compliance and kind of all of the security compliance that's required for those larger organizations?
So first of all, organizations need to decide where they want to host their data. And we have hosting centers in North America and Europe and other locations in the world. And as needed, obviously, we can bring those up today, that more and more countries are bringing in their own regulations. We abide by all those. First of all, DealHub is meets all the top security, ISO 27001, SOC 2 Type 2, GDPR, the California laws, the other American laws, Canada, Australia, all these other countries that have come up with their laws as well. And we basically adhere to all of those as well. And again, a lot of that sometimes comes down to where do you want to store your data, but all that is done through the process, and we can definitely discuss that further as somebody needs.
Fantastic. I think those are all the main questions. I hope I didn't miss anything important. I definitely tried to capture the ones from today's session. I would say that if there are questions that occur to the people listening here that come up later on today or in the near future, then there's a couple of options to get in contact again. So one is to connect with you directly on LinkedIn, of course. That's one option. Option two is to send an email to sales@dealhub.io. And we'll grab that and send that back to you. And then the third is when we share this recording on demand, we'll make sure to include the Slack link and the wiki links, both to FAQs and a means to communicate with us. So several options there. Eyal, is there anything else that you would, well, first of all, thank you. You shared a lot of really relevant information, and I know that you are super passionate about CPQ and have been championing the need for next-gen CPQ for the past 8 to 10 years. Is there anything else that you'd like to share as we close things up?
No, just like I say, we've got a great relationship with the HubSpot team and a lot of the partners, and hopefully those are the ones that are on here today, or those, if you're not a partner yet, definitely get in touch with us. Definitely willing to work with you, showing what you can do. We got a great CPQ, a lot of value we can bring together to customers, and just looking to do some great business. So looking forward to being in touch with a lot of you.
Perfect. Fantastic. Thank you so much, Eyal. Thank you for your time. Thank you for sharing a lot of great information today. We look forward to being in touch with you, and thank you from all of us here at the DealHub team. Bye for now.